Welcome everybody, this is your lovely host Sebastian with another episode of the Draft League Spotlight. Before I get started, I do want to say I am sorry for my voice. I am a little bit under the weather, so please bear with me with this episode and the following episodes until I get better. Before we get started, I do want to say that the Critical Continental Cup has opened its doors to new players and content creators that want to be part of this awesome community. I will leave a link down in the description below with the Discord so you guys could get access to it and ask questions on how to join and see the tier list whenever it's completed once the games are out. Now, this week we're going to talk about 4 special Pokemon that are really similar, and these are going to be Gyarados, Dragonite, Hydreigon, and Dragapult. Now, why do I say they're similar? It's because they got a really wide range of move pools, and they're all dragon types, and they're pretty much all, well, they're not really dragon types. I should correct myself there. What it is really that they're really versatile, and they could both attack physical or special. They have a wide range of move pools that help them out, and most of the times you don't really need to run just stab moves on them. You could just run really powerful other type moves. So let's get started with Gyarados, one of my favorite Pokemon and one I am really familiar, especially in Draft League. What it mainly puts it down is it's 4 times weak to electric, which is really a shame because it's just really powerful, especially if you know you can one-shot something in your opponent's side of the field. You just run it in Moxie and you can just start snowballing all the way. My previous strats, or what I used previously, was mix Gyarados and then hit it with the rain, hit something with the rain, kill something, get Moxie boost, and then snowball from there, while having like a helping hand or like a lightning rod user next to me, especially like Togedemaru, which has both like helping hand and lightning rod. I used to love that combo, but people started to learn and started using this charge against me, and then I had to run like electric berries and all that kind of stuff, and it was just a really big problem. That four times electric weakness is just really something you do not want to deal with. But we'll talk about how I got rid of that in a little bit. I do have to say I was in between Gyarados and Salamence for this slot for this episode, and there's something that Gyarados has that Salamence doesn't, which just went over the edge and allowed me to put Gyarados in this episode over Salamence. But if Gyarados is gone, at least in this case or in this scenario, you can pick Salamence. Or same thing goes with Dragonite. If Dragonite is gone, I think Salamence is also a good replacement for Dragonite or Gyarados. Alright, so let's get started. First of all, it has Intimidate and Moxie, which are two abilities that are great, and especially I think in this format Moxie might get used a little bit more, just like we saw with like the Dynamax meta in Sword and Shield. Intimidate is always great. Lowering your opponent's attack is great, but if you're against a team in your draft that doesn't have like huge attackers, and you could see a one-shot with Moxie, then I would go with Moxie, because once you get that one attack boost, I mean, you could just snowball from there. That being said, if you're planning to run an offensive set on Gyarados and want like that, like glass cannon type of feel, I would just run water and flying. It's always good. You got your Aqua Tails, you got your Hydra Pumps in the rain. I do have to say, out of all of these, if you're running a mixed Gyarados, I would have to say I've only found success in the rain. Out of all of these, I think it is the one that has the lowest special attack. I might be wrong, but I believe it is the one that has the lowest special attack. But you could still run it mixed, which I really like about Gyarados. But if you do want those extra damage with your stabs, I would run water and flying. However, I do feel like the main power from Gyarados is gonna come from an electric or a ground type Terra type. Why you say so? Well, electric just gets rid of the 4 times electric weakness, which is great. you are now gonna be hit by ground, which is quite awkward. After being flying, you can now get hit by ground type moves, which, you know, it's kind of a little bit counterintuitive. But you could get a Thunderbolt out or a physical Terra type out, which is great. And if you turn into a ground type, you get completely rid of your electric immunity. I mean electric weakness, and you just become immune to electric. And you could just start hitting with stab ground moves, which is just insane. Especially now that you don't have your 4x weakness, I think Dragon Dance is gonna be a lot more effective in Gyarados, allowing to get that extra attack and that extra speed, which it always needs. Gyarados and both Gyarados and Dragonite have this speed tier that you always need a little bit more. So if you do get a Dragon Dance out, or a Tailwind in that case if you get a good partner, but I would say like if you get a Dragon Dance out, you get that attack boost. Mwah, lovely. So that's something you would want to consider when trying out Gyarados. However, the reason I put Gyarados here over Salamence, it's the following. It's the grass type, Terra type. Now, a lot of people forget that Gyarados gets a move called Power Whip. And a Power Whip after a Dragon Dance, oh my god, that, or a Moxie Boost, that is gonna hurt. It's a really powerful grass type move, and if you don't want to have a Power Whip, you could just use the the Terra Blast, which is going to be 80 base power. Because I know Power Whip is not as good regarding accuracy, but that's a whole other dilemma. We're not going to get into it. However, something to point out is that redirection users shown so far or revealed so far are only Rage Powder redirection users. So being a grass type, you're going to be immune to both Rage Powder and Sleep Powder. So that's another counter that you could come up with. And for your for Gyarados to do, right? So something to consider. Power Whip is a really great attacking move. And if you start looking at all the grass types, you can't really find a really good physical attacker that's a grass type. Apart from like Serena, I couldn't really think of any other. So just having this and allowing you to now to have a stab grass type onto your Gyarados and not being 4x weak immune to electric, I think Gyarados is going to see a lot more play, especially early meta at least, just like we saw in Sword and Shield with the Power Whip mechanic. So we'll see how it plays out. I feel like it's going to be a really powerful pick. Now, let's go on. Talk about my friend Glader, the Dragonite. I love this thing, man. It helped me a lot in my last draft. The biggest weakness, of course, is its 4x weakness to ice and its awkward speed. I always wanted a little bit more speed on the Dragonite to make it better. The problem was that you almost always wanted to run it multi-scale with like a Ice Berry, or else you would just like die to just anything. It was rarely where the turns were the weeks where I ran Inner Focus Dragonite. However, this time around, I feel like Inner Focus Dragonite is gonna be a lot better. Just being immune to fake outs and intimidate is gonna be great, and changing your type is just gonna allow you once again to set those Dragon Dances out. It's gonna get your speed up, your attack up. So I don't think you're going to be relying too much on multi-scale with Dragonite. I feel like Inner Focus is going to be a lot better. Like I said before, I feel like Flying and Water type, Terra type is going to be great, especially with Dual Wing Beat. Dual Wing Beat is going to be a really good option to get that extra stab with just to hit your opponent. But like I said, you really do not need any stab moves with these Pokemon. You could just run a defensive type Terra type, we're gonna talk about in a little bit, and just hit Stone Edges, hit your opponent with Earthquakes, hit your opponents with superpowers, things like that. Remember, all these Pokemon have like these crazy and powerful moves that are just not stab, and I think they're really good options as well. Now, defensive wise, Fire. Just pick Fire. you're 4 times weak to ice and fairy, and 2 times weak to fairy, right? Well, you get rid of those immunities instantly, and you have access to flamethrower. So one of my favorite things to do with Dragonite is run a mixed Dragonite, and people never expected it. Sometimes I would run rain with like Hydra Pump, and then some other weeks I would run like flamethrower with extreme speed and Dragon Claw, and people would like be like, what? And I would caught a lot of people off guard. And having access to any stab here, especially fire, which is a really good defensive Terra type for Dragonite, I feel like it's gonna be really, really good for you, and your opponent won't be suspecting it. Well, I guess now if they watch this video, they will. But you know, I feel like fire type into a dragon type, it's gonna be always a good option. Now talking about power, let's talk about how the offense on Hydreigon. Hydreigon is known for its super offensive attacks, especially that dark type he's got is just like, it just hits really hard, especially like Snarl, and just being immune to Prankster always made this Pokemon really super good. And Levitate, let's not forget about Levitate. That's really important for Hydreigon. However, that 4 times weakness to grass, I mean to fairy, and then not having that much of an HP stat just made that like you could kill it with brick breaks and stuff like that if screens weren't out and things like that. So it made, even though it was really powerful if it got an attack, if it didn't get an attack, it was always going down. But now with Terra types, it's gonna be a different story. I did put Dark as well here, because you could get at least go down from a 4 times weakness to a 2 times weakness. I could hit things, I mean, you could still hit things really super hard with Snarl. With that, like, I mean, if you were already doing almost like 60% damage to some Pokemon, you're pretty much almost gonna kill Pokemon now with Snarl. So it's gonna be crazy. You could go like full glass cannon with Snarl. However, I feel like defensive wise, Steel is gonna be really great for Hydreigon, especially because it gets that flash cannon attack. Flash cannon, you get rid of your fairy weaknesses, and then you're gonna be weak to ground, water, and fire, right? However, you got Levitate, so you're now only gonna be weak to fire and water. And flash cannon is a great move, and with Hydreigon's special attack stat, you're gonna be hitting a lot of things super hard. And it's kind of like a defensive Terra typing, as well as just giving you extra stab on a steel move, which is always great to hit back those fairies. So pretty much you were weak to fairy, and now you can hit fairies. Now you're in, like, resist fairy and can hit those fairies super hard. So I feel like that with Hydreigon is gonna be chef's kiss again. However, if you do want to get rid of all your immunities, remember that it gets Levitate. So if you run an electric type Terra type, you're pretty much getting rid of all your immunities, because I think electric is only weak to ground, and with Levitate you just turn into electric. You gotta Levitate, you're immune. I mean, you won't have any weaknesses pretty much. Also, something to point out is that Hydreigon never got Thunderbolt. I think it's only electric move that actually was good was Shockwave, and I think it's 60 base power. So now it gets access to Terra Blast electric, so it's pretty much a Thunderbolt. It's an 80 base power electric attack. So that's something to consider. You can still remember, you keep your other stabs, so you can still Snarl, you could still use like Draco Meteor, you could still use all those things. But now I believe the best Terra type is going to be either, if you want to get rid of your weaknesses, go into electric, but if you do want to hit those fairy types back, turn into steel. Use that flash cannon and destroy your opponent's life. I believe that Fluffy, it's gonna have we're gonna see a lot of Fluffy in draft leagues, and maybe even in the regular ladder, who knows. All right, let's continue talking about Dragapult. Dragapult is one of my favorite Pokemon. It's pretty much the same as all of them, except it has a crazy speed stat, right? It's the speediest of them all. it has a low HP stat as well. I think it's the lowest HP stat of the lot over here. But it's a really powerful Pokémon. What puts it down? It's weak to Sucker Punch, and being weak to Sucker Punch was like super annoying because Sucker Punch would almost always be like hit you for like 60%, and so people could like either helping out Sucker Punch and kill you if you weren't Sash, or just like two-shot you in like hit you this turn and then you won't be able to attack next turn because you're gonna get Sucker Punched again, right? So what I thought of is pretty much Electric and Fire are always gonna be pretty much defensive type Terra types onto Dragapult. I feel like you can't go wrong. You'll get a stab Electric, you'll get a stab Fire. It pretty much applies the same procedure as we talked about in Dragonite. It's really good to like get rid of those weaknesses you've got. There is an argument for you to run Steel type Terra type and use Steel Wing. Although I guess at that point you'll use Steel type Terra Blast, right? So the way I see to get around the Sucker Punch is pretty much because like the good thing about Dragapult, I forgot to mention at the beginning, is that it's not only a crazy offensive Pokemon, but it's also a great support Pokemon because it's like super fast and not many Pokemon are going to be able to outspeed Dragapult. You could set up screens the first turn. Yeah, you could set up screens the first turn or Will-O-Wisp the first turn. So instead of attacking, you use a supporting move while changing into another Terra type. That way the Sucker Punch won't activate, but you will activate your Terra type. And then the next turn you could use an offensive move, and now they won't be able to hit you as hard with a Sucker Punch. There's also an argument to say like pure Ghost type is really good as well, but I really don't like that weakness to Sucker Punch, especially with that low HP stat. So that's what I thought about. Now, another option is a Dark type Terra type, and you're gonna say, but why a Dark type Terra type? Oh, sorry. Before I forget, you could even go for a Dragon Dance the first turn if you don't want to go for a supportive move. You're immune to Fake Out while being a Ghost type, so you could just go to Dragon Dance the first turn. Sucker Punch won't activate, and then start destroying everything. You really don't need the speed from the Dragon Dance, but the attack is always useful. So yeah. And I did want to mention the Dark type Terra type here as the best option for Dragapult, just because you won't get hit by that Sucker Punch as hard, but you will also be immune to Prankster Thunder Waves or Prankster like Will-O-Wisp and things like that, which I think are going to be really important or really relevant in the Draft League format. So you being able to prevent your opponent from lowering your speed or just crippling your fast attacking Pokemon, I think it's going to be really important. At least for the beginning of the meta, while we see how things work. But I feel like the biggest weakness in Dragapult just becomes like not as good is if it loses its attack stat somehow with a Will-O-Wisp, or if it just loses its speed. So I mean, yeah, Trick Room's always gonna work, but if you could prevent those Prankster Thunder Waves and things like that, I feel like it was gonna be great. Also remember, all these Pokemon are great attacking waves, like physical and specially. So that's why I put them all together, and that's why I feel like all these 4 Pokemon are gonna shine in the draft format. I can't wait and see on like what's gonna happen. I'm really excited for these new games. And that's it for today. That's all I wanted to talk about. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know what you want to see in the future. If you are liking this content, just give it a like, subscribe. Thank you so much for you guys for tuning in, staying all the way here till the end. I appreciate you all. See you next week. Bye bye.